All right, we're gonna get started. You know, before I took this job, when I would say things like that, nobody would pay attention to me. So that's welcome everybody to Peter White Public Library. My name is Marty Ackitts, and I'm the Adult Programming Coordinator for the library. And before we get started and I start talking about programs that are coming up and introduce Jeff, I just want to thank one group that makes our live streaming possible. Tonight's event is going to be live streamed, and that is the Friends of Peter White Public Library, who pay for lots and lots of things here at the library, including our live streaming equipment. So if you are watching us on YouTube or watching us after the fact on YouTube, you have the Friends to thank for that. So a couple things coming up that might be of interest. Since you're all here to watch movies, on Friday here at noon in the community room, again, we're going to be screening the film that came out last year, the film adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front. Won a bunch of Oscars last year. Really, really wonderful, wonderful film. And plus we're going to also have popcorn because we just got a popcorn machine. Again, thank you, Friends. There you go. And it's free. You don't have to buy the popcorn. You just show up. So anyway, we have All Quiet on the Western Front on Friday of this week here in the community room at 12 noon. Next Monday, we have a show here called Northwards in Music. It's B.G. Bradley, who is Writer of the Year last year for the Marquette Art Awards, who is here with a bunch of friends. And I think I'm one of his friends because he invited me to be a part of it. So we're going to be doing a show here. It's going to include music, stories, poetry, and that starts at 7 p.m. On Monday here in the community room. And then lastly, I will say there's another film coming up next Wednesday, in case you don't have anything to do like prepare for Thanksgiving. At 12 noon on Wednesday, we're going to be showing the film Air, which came out last year. And basically it's about how Air Jordans came to be. And if you haven't seen it, that might not sound fascinating to you, but it's a really great film. Directed by, I think Ben Affleck directed that. It has lots, it's a great film. So I encourage you all to come back for that. But let me, so if you're interested in that, I have flyers back there for November and December. You can find all the stuff that's going on here at the library. But I think most of you know Jeff, but for those of you that are watching on YouTube, I will do a little introduction here. Jeff teaches fiction writing, screenwriting, film production at Delta College in Michigan. His award-winning short films have been accepted in over 200 times in national and international film festivals. And his books of fiction include Emergency Stopping, Threatened Species. His novels include Into the Desperate Country, Landscapes with Fragmented Figures, American Poet, which was a Michigan notable book, wasn't it, Jeff? Yeah. American Poet, great book. Detroit Muscle, and also his new dystopian novel, which is on sale back there, is Rules of Order. So, and I've known Jeff for quite a while. You know, we go way back in classes that we took together. We were talking about the teachers that we had at Northern when we were there, and realized that most of them have retired or gone to other places. So, and when I say other places, not to other colleges, but anyway. So please give a great big Peter White Public Library welcome to Jeff Vandezande.
Thanks everybody for coming. I thought I'd be thanking a list of friends, family, but I can just stop at friends and family, because that's pretty much who showed up, which is, it's just great. Thanks to Marty, as always, you do a great job putting things together, and thanks to the Peter White Public Library. To keep me on task, I wrote up an introduction for the event tonight. Let me get my password in first. That might click out before, but let me just read this introduction and then we'll kill the lights and watch some films. So I've been involved in filmmaking for the last 15 years, but it's only been within the last 6 years that I've been making films on my own, which includes writing, filming, acting, and editing. In 2017, I applied for a sabbatical, which I used to learn camera operation and editing. I now, in addition to teaching screenwriting, also teach cinematography and film production. Not only does film give me another creative outlet, but I find that my practice of making films serves to make me a better instructor as I teach my students how to make their own films. Just as a heads up, as a filmmaker, I am both low budget, thank you Elaine, and independent. In terms of low budget, you're going to see a lot of the house where I live, including the garage, because having full access to a location is both low budget and independent. You'll also, sadly, have to see a lot of me in the films. I don't cast myself because I think I'm a fantastic actor. I cast myself and some others that you'll see because I know that I will show up and I don't need to be paid. The first handful of films I'm going to show are each 1 minute long. In my process of submitting films to film festivals, I discovered that many film festivals have a 1 minute category, and some film festivals are dedicated to 1 minute films exclusively. I like producing 1 minute films because they tend to be low budget, and I can usually shoot them in 2 to 3 hours. My assignments in my cinematography class consist of my students making their own 1 minute films. I find that because 1 minute films typically consist of 8 to 12 shots, my students can really focus on the composition of those shots and apply what they are learning in the course. One of the things I'm able to apply more in my films is my sense of humor. People who read my fiction often say, "Man, your stories are so heavy and dark. You're a funny guy, but I never see much of your humor in your books." Well, you're going to see quite a bit of my humor, especially in the 1 minute films. I'll warn you in advance that my humor can be crass and a little lowbrow. Lots of potty humor. The showcase tonight will move out of the 1 minute films into some longer short films, but nothing much longer than 6 minutes. I will end the program on a short documentary that I shot, which, as a relief to your eyes and ears, doesn't feature me in it at all, other than a brief cameo. The documentary is about 22 minutes long. Once I begin, I'm just going to show the various films back to back, but if there's interest at the end, I'll be open to your questions. So if we're ready, hopefully we still have the sound ready to roll.
It should be.
All right. Well, if you want to kill the lights, I can.
Okay.
Jared Krabs. How are you? I'm fine, yourself? Good. Dehydrated? What? Sorry, I just know my urine. Oh, what's that? Well, thanks for submitting to the drug test. I don't know if it's a little awkward.
Yeah, no problem.
Like our last 3 applicants are a little freaked out by the process.
It's pretty standard practice nowadays.
Exactly. Nothing to it. Keeps the cheeches and chongs out of here, if you know what I mean. You have a prescription for this Xanax? Yeah. Go back down to HR. We'll walk you through the forms. We shoot hoops on Wednesday night. It's great. Yes.
Apple juice, by the way.
What did you say there was a Xanax?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You got a prescription for
For Xanax, okay.
All right, let the celebration of urine continue.
Danny Crockett now. I mean, I'm putting on pants in the middle of the night to take a leak, Ella. Why'd your dad put the guest room in the basement when the only bathroom is on the second floor? That's what you get for buying a house with only one bathroom, douchebag.
This one might have me in the most compromising position, but we'll see.
Could you just stop by and watch me? I got it all hooked up and exactly where it needs to be, but my wife won't do it for me. I'm serious, man. Ever since I've got out of jail, I really miss the routine. I'm jumping at any chance to recreate that secure feeling. I only smoke when I'm on my hour of rec time that I give myself. I'm eating the same stuff. We're gonna meet both again. Checkmate. Doing the same social activities and all I've seen. Trying my best to have group therapy. But I can't do this part alone, man. All right, fine. Could you at least yell, courtesy flush, goddammit? I mean, that might get me there. I haven't gone in like 4 days.
More than you wanted to see. But hold your horses.
What do you mean by cool? Might be uncomfortable, but he's getting all inflamed. He's not gonna into shit, but seriously, man, he's been obsessed with trying to lick his balls for the last 3 days. Tried spraying him with water, but then he's just wet trying to lick himself. It doesn't even faze him. Tried the diaper too, but he just kept ripping the thing off. Plus he's getting lazy and just peeing in it. Stop trying to make me feel bad. It's not my fault. Ever since his vasectomy, Dad's been such a freaking pain.
I didn't have it that bad. Russian gulag. You should try being in this kind of pain, you commie.
And this one does feature my son in it.
Look, I'm gonna hang up and go to sleep, all right? You're not even listening to me. What I'm saying is I wish I could wake up and be 18 again, knowing what I know now. And I wouldn't end up living in my dad's basement, watching porn and talking to your sorry ass.
Holy shit.
All right, this one just prepared, gets you a little bit away from humor.
You've made great progress, Richard, but as you'll remember, we determined that these recordings will help reinforce what we established through hypnosis in our sessions. Do not lock the back door 7 times. You will lock it only once and then walk away. Listen to your logical mind. Leaving the room, turn off the light only once. Your rituals have no cause and effect relationship other than if you allow them to imprison you in a pointless world of magical thinking. There is no reason to go up the stairs backwards. Your fear of ignoring your rituals is simply the boogeyman of the child's world. Nothing bad will happen to you.
at a horror film, but. Alright, this one is serious.
What's your emergency? Hello?
All right, those were the 1-minute films. This one's another comedy, but a little longer.
What are you doing now, kid? For God's sake.
Lucas.
What?
This is a nice setup you got here. You got gasoline, bunch of done token up, get some nice candles in here, get some open flames around this.
Some tea candles might be nice to set the mood.
You know, when your mother and I got the news last week that you were moving out, we were kind of imagining an apartment, maybe even a little house.
Thoreau says a man doesn't own a house. The house actually owns him. The massive men live lives of quiet desperation, Dad. Not me.
Please do not weaponize the education that I paid for.
You know, camping out in your parents' garage is a pretty far cry from going out to the woods and building your own log cabin with your own hands.
It's not about that. It's about simplifying.
Look, you grow up, you move out. Ideally off of the property.
Dad, look at your life. Work, cars, chores. I mean, here we are. It's a beautiful night. And here you are, taking out the garbage.
The garbage that you left in your room when you supposedly moved out.
You see, even by having kids, you've made your life so complicated. I mean, who are you? I'll tell you. You're a yardman, or a plumber, or an accountant. Whatever this house needs you to be, you are. Until eventually you, the real you, disappears forever. I mean, even when you're not an indentured servant to this house, where are you? You're out selling your soul to the man to pay for it all.
Selling my... I'm a librarian. In the children's section.
Now me, out here in the garage, that's a symbol of simplification. You see, I want it to be a whole movement, a totally different way to approach life. I'm calling it Walden 2.
That's already above B.F. Skinner.
Walden 3 then, I mean, Cody and Logan are already on board.
Where am I supposed to park the car this winter?
There are no cars in Walden 3. I mean, it's like an Amish community, or Mackinac Island. I won't be talked out of this, Dad.
Yeah, I know, I'm still paying off the loans from your last venture. That paranormal thing.
The CGC would have been profitable, given 5 or 6 more years.
Tell you what I'm gonna do. Before you get all self-reliant on me, why don't you go out, get your buddies and you some pizza?
Are you serious?
Yeah?
That's awesome. The boys are gonna be here in about an hour.
That should be just about perfect.
Thanks, Dad.
I figured you would do that. I didn't do it.
This is my quiet desperation. Bye, garage.
This one's a different one for me. It's serious too, but it's the first one that I shot almost entirely on my cell phone. And it's amazing how far cell phones have come along. I think it looks as good as anything that I shot on my DSLR.
She made a good guess. So I tell her, yes, this is who I am. And then I have to say, no, not in the car. She vomits. So we sit, vomit in the car, you can't clean it. I tell you, I'm always dealing with this. Vomiting, and crying. It's number one bullshit.
What?
Brother, you're awake.
Where am I?
You were in a car accident. Bad. Totaled. It's called to pick you up.
An accident? I kind of remember. Look, I'm on my way to my wedding rehearsal. Just drop me off there. My fiance, she needs to know.
It's no dressers, brother. It's called to pick you up.
Where are we even going? There's not even a hospital out here. Look, I'm fine. Just drop me off at the rehearsal. Who even called you?
Brother, enough of the questions. You're in the car accident. Car was totaled. It's called to pick you up, take you home. That's it. Done.
Is this a scam?
No scam.
I live in the city.
Brother, this thing, you don't have to be scared. You're just in shock.
I don't understand. Is that snow? It's July. It couldn't. I mean, am I?
This thing, that happens every day. Too many. But you're strong. No vomit. No crying. Now relax. Cross it over now.
And then it was called Smert Services, but Smert is also a Eastern European version of the Grim Reaper. So that's where the title came up from. Another serious one. company, you know. Son, just go around like I did. Oh, always stubborn. What's with this shit? Did you learn anything from me?
Dad, why'd you have to leave?
I will take a moment just to mention, obviously you've seen a lot of him. Lucas was a student of mine who's become a close friend and almost like a son to me, and he's in a lot of these productions. So, he's developed himself, I think, into a good actor. Out for a walk?
Yeah, you all right there?
Oh, that's just a scratch. What about you?
What?
Saw you coming down the trail. You look like a young man with something on his mind. Sit down.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about throwing this damn thing in the marsh.
Well, these aren't bad at all.
Yeah, they're okay.
No, I see real potential here.
You're the only one. And everyone else says comics are a big waste of time.
Well, so who's everyone?
My parents, my older brother, hell, even my art professor says it.
Yeah, well, society's a fickle bitch, young man. One breath it's telling you to chase your dreams and be yourself, and next breath it's telling you to stop being a dreamer and conform.
Yeah, well, I'm sick of it. I feel like my head's on fire.
There's this Zen parable about this blind guy in China, like long time ago, 18th century, I don't know. And he's at a friend's house, and it's night, and he's about to walk home, and his friend says, "You gotta take this lantern with you." The blind guy's like, For what? Light, dark, it's all the same to me. He goes, no, not for you, for other people so they can see you. You know, even though this blind guy has gotten home many times that night by himself, his friend is so insistent that his way is the right way, that this blind guy, he takes the lantern, and there he is, out the door, he's off. And he's walking, full of confidence, because he's got this lantern. And then all of a sudden, boom, the guy smacks right into him. The blind guy, he's indignant. He's like, you idiot, can't you see this lantern? And the other guy goes, brother, your candle has burned out. For me, that's never meant anything but a candle. That's his candle inside, right? He knew his way to get through the world. He'd done it many times. But it's his friend being insistent, saying, you got to take my way. That's what that parable's always meant to me, that we're born blind, right? And the challenge, but also like the thing that makes life rich, is you find your own way. There's plenty of people out there are going to tell you what you need to do. They don't know what's right for you. You know who can figure out what's right for you? You. You're the one who figures it out. And that's the only way. It's like that Robert Frost poem, right? Two roads diverged in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. That's true stuff. So, yeah, just making your own path comes in pain? Yeah, it does. But if you don't experience the pain of your own path, you're going to end up on somebody else's path. And you know where you're going to end up? Numb. It's like Thoreau, right? Didn't want to come to the end of my life and find out I had not lived. There's all kinds of voices out there. Voices of authority. And they're going to tell you what you need to do for you. And their intentions are good, but they're deadly, especially if you listen to them. Only voices you got to listen to are the voices in your head. Those are the voices to follow. You got to trust them. I know what you're going through. Let's say I have a lifestyle that society frowns upon. I tried to suppress it when I was your age. Ended up miserable. It's only recently I started following up, acting upon my true nature. First time in a long time I felt happy, fulfilled, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what you got to do. You got to find your way through darkness.
Thank you. It's actually what I needed to hear today.
All right.
I'm gonna go get to work. And
Good meeting you.
it's nice meeting you too. Seriously, thank you.
Welcome. Glad to help. Well, darling, you have the honor of being my first fighter. I wasn't very polite, I wasn't. But I suppose, with where I'm going to be tossing you, you're going to fit right in with the snapping turtles with that mouth. This is, I'm going to buckle in a little bit because it's going to be longer than those, but this is a documentary.
Most people don't realize it, but we're already at the crisis point.
I feel like it's only gonna get worse, and then it's just gonna hit you all at one time. We're gonna wake up one morning and say, hey, there's nobody here to do this work now. Why don't we fix it?
So in my opinion, what's happened is, they started 34 years ago in skilled trades, and the companies that they worked for were happy with the employees, and the baby boomers were kind of the last generation that stayed in the same job that they started in, and they were happy doing that in the most part. I mean, not everybody, but in the most part, the baby boomers stayed in that job. So these companies had these people that were good employees, willing to work, and stayed there for a long time. And then they quit hiring skilled trades because they had everybody they needed. And then as time went on, now the baby boomers are starting to retire, and we get to the point where they're all retiring, and we're ending up with no people because the companies haven't gone in there and replaced people or had some the foresight, I think, to look ahead and see that, okay, in 20 years we're going to start retiring some people, so we need to get them in there now.
I describe it as the perfect storm. If you've seen that movie, that's what I think was happened in manufacturing. First off, the state changed the high school curriculums, and they added a lot of classes that were mandatory for students to take. So schools started to cut back on their wood shop, metal shop, auto body classes. The schools, also under financial duress, kind of eliminated those programs and focused on college readiness classes. Then manufacturing went through a downturn, and they were not hiring people like they used to, so people had an idea that there weren't any jobs in manufacturing. And then the perception of parents that my kid is going to get better than I had. Even if I work for GM, I want my son or my daughter to do better. They're going to go off to a 4-year school and get a degree and get a great job.
The skilled trades are auto repair, electricians, plumbers, home builders, commercial builders, heating, HVAC is heating and air conditioning. Basically anything that you need for your life. They don't have any candidates. That I've talked with them, and I've tried several people coming from the schools, but they're too few and far between. I don't know that the schools are the issue. The issue is nobody's going into any of the trades. There's no interest. I think it has something to do with perhaps how we grew up. When me and my friends were younger, in order to work on a bicycle or have a bicycle, you had to work on it yourself. Well, now you just get a new one from China, and if you want to go kart, you get that from China. And now we used to have to make it out of lawnmowers. So those skills are not being developed at a young age. So I don't have the answers, but the people are not out there. Yeah, technology has a big thing to do with it, because one of my first toys was an erector set. So if you start at a young age, learning which way to turn a screw to tighten it up and how to loosen it up, you've already have a big advantage of most of the people heading into college, which is kind of sad, well, from a mechanic standpoint. So.
We got to this point in skilled trades because of perception, in my opinion. The perception of skilled trades is that you make a low wage, you work physically demanding jobs for many years in less than admirable working conditions, and you never get to the American dream. I think that parents fail in letting their kids know what opportunities are out there, or told them that they are not a person who's going into skilled trades, they're going to go to college instead. I think that same message was used at the high school level, where they created this perception that only successful people, only people that are going to be successful in their adult life are the ones that went to get a 4-year degree.
The industries, we need our skilled trades there to put new equipment in, to install it, and to troubleshoot existing equipment. So if we have a piece of equipment going down and we don't have enough skilled tradespeople in the workforce to solve the problems, those machines are going to stay down. What does that mean? That means that our companies aren't going to be as profitable because they're going to be sitting there paying all these employees while the machines are down and we don't have enough people to get them back up and running. So the companies are going to start losing their profits, and that's going to hurt us economically, obviously. It may even get to the point where what companies we do have here are going to have to look elsewhere for their to put their companies and to do their production because we just can't support it here. And that's so critical when a machine goes down in a factory to make sure it's back up in a timely manner.
The longer we delay on doing something about it, the worse it's going to be. To the point if we delay long enough, I believe we're probably not going to have machinists in the U.S. They're going to retire before anybody notices they're gone, and you're going to lose a lot of that trade. That's a very tough trade to learn. That takes a long time to learn all the. Sure, you can learn how to run the machine, but there are some tricks to it that you can only learn by apprenticing on it. It's not really going to be a crisis for the tradespeople per se that are working in it, because the law of supply and demand means more work, less people to do it, we'll just make more money. Now, the people that require the trades and need to have their car fixed, their house fixed, or roofing, or plumbing, or electrical, are just simply going to have to pay more money as there's less people to do it. So it will be a crisis for the end user, not necessarily the tradespeople themselves. So, and that's what's coming. The tradesman right now, typically in his, like, I'm 54 years old, and I'm probably the average mechanic working. The average home builder is probably of a similar age. So in the next 5 to 10 years, they're all going to retire. And nobody's really thought about it or has anybody ready to replace them.
I read a statistic somewhere that baby boomers are retiring at the rate of 10,000 a day. Our whole population's going to shift. What I see happening is there's going to be less electricians, less pipe fitters, less electrical linesmen. So if your furnace stops working on a morning like we had yesterday with -9 degrees, and you call for a repair person, they could say, sorry, all our techs are busy. We'll get to you tomorrow or the next day. And for the average homeowner, they're going to say, well, why do I have to wait? We just don't have enough techs.
Average consumer or person living in America right now, one of the ways that I think this crisis in the skilled trades could hurt them is that, people that come out and fix things at your home or build things for you, they're not going to be available and the ones that are available are going to cost a lot. So let's say, for example, now your dryer breaks down and you have to go to work on Monday and you really want to have dry clothes, so you call somebody up to come fix that dryer, and they courteously let you know that they have a spot a month down the road where they can come out and fix your dryer.
Difficult problems will lay at a shop, and if they're overwhelmed with easier stuff, they're just simply gonna be overwhelmed with the easier problem. So a difficult car problem may be scheduled a month out or more, and it's already kind of starting to happen. If you don't have anybody to tackle the difficult problems, and you have a lot of people that are only qualified to do lesser problems, you're gonna take on the lesser problems. And it might mean if you have a failure that they don't have anybody capable of fixing, you might be without a car for 3 months. And that could be inconvenient if you need that car to get to your job. Similarly, I've been in the building trades. You're not gonna have people available that wanna do certain parts of that trade. So if you want a house built, and you only got one plumber and 17 houses to build, you might be held up on your house build. And right now, it's already starting. House builds are down. The economy's good, and there'll be more houses being built, but there's nobody to build them. So people are waiting longer, and it's not even happening yet. It's just starting. So 5 or 10 years from now, if you get a leaky roof on your house, the option might be to put pots and pans out and catch the water. That might be your only option, because you may get nobody to even come and talk to you about fixing your roof. Or you may pay 3 times as much as you pay today to get somebody motivated enough to do it.
I heard saying that if you throw a frog in a pot of hot water, he jumps out, but if you put him in a pot of cold water and turn the burner up, he'll just sit there. I think most people won't realize the skilled trade shortage is real until it personally affects them. And it could be their auto mechanic, they can't get their car repaired on because there's just nobody to do it. There might be that new home they want built and they can't find a contractor that has room in the schedule to do it right away. Or their furnace is out, they can't get it repaired, like I said, or their power goes out and the lineman can't get to them right away. Then all of a sudden they'll go, wow, well, this shortage is real.
I want to think about how we move away from this perception of skilled tradesmen, skilled tradespeople being considered lower status, and all the perceptions. What we want to do is examine what are those perceptions and how did we get there, because when we look at the idea of power, and when we look at the idea of change, if we want to be agents for change, we want to change people's perceptions about something specifically, what we want to look at is what are the ideas, what are the cultural values that get tied to something. So
society that if you go into technically a skilled trade, you're going to be stepping into a factory, you're going to be working at an assembly line, you're going to do the same thing over and over and over again all day long, and you're probably not going to progress financially very quickly, and you'll probably plateau at a specific level, pay level. But that's not true at all, because when I decided to go into the electrical field, I had the idea that I was going to wire houses. I was going into construction because that's where the electrical is. And I was so naive and so uneducated about what was available to me. And now I'm working with some of the brightest people in the world. Some of the people that I work with have multiple master's degrees and PhDs. And they're relying on me to help them get their work done, and they're global. And so the opportunity to not only make a fantastic career in the skilled trades, but to continue your education working under these people that have these really high level degrees and they're very knowledgeable in what they do.
What we want to look at though is, if we're facing a shortfall, we got so many people who are not interested for whatever reason going into a technical trade, or to be an electrician or a plumber or someone who's going to repair machinery. How do we counteract, or how do we recognize,
some of the associations with technician, for example, that they're low pay, that they're trained, that it's a vocation rather than a profession. They work in factories, they work outdoors, they work in dirty places, it's a low status kind of job.
And so what something like articulation theory does for us is it talks about how those perceptions come into being. And we can then look at changing them over time.
I worked for a very prestigious law firm in downtown Dallas for many, many years. They had outrageous Christmas parties, and they offered ski trips for all their employees, all the lavish things that you would associate with going into law. But I actually am making more money now in the skilled trades than I did working for that lavish law firm.
I think the biggest thing that we can do is change the perception of skilled trades, which is, there's been a select group of people that are already trying to do that over the past several years. We can really highlight success stories of people that are involved in the skilled trades and how that's affected their life and how they've done really well for themselves. And I think it has to be a message from a lot of different people. It has to be parents, people at the high school level, administrators, teachers, counselors, and it has to be people out in industry too, showing what it really looks like to be involved in skilled trades.
So can we change perceptions? Absolutely. Can we do it now? Sometimes. Something like this, it took us a couple of generations or more to get to the point where we look at there being a big gulf between these two groups. Can we change it quickly? I doubt it. Can we eventually get to the point where these are more balanced? Ironically, we may come to the point where the campaign is so successful that we flip the script. We're already seeing some people who are looking at it as, okay, I can go to school for 4 years, maybe go and get a master's degree that's 2 years more. I get that high-paying job, but if I go into masonry right now and I'm really good at it, or I go into industrial electrician work, I get to that paycheck in 2 years instead of 6 years or 8 years.
A lot of the perception is that the trades are a blue-collar job, and nobody wants to do it because they think white-collar jobs are much better, higher paying. There will be opportunity for a lot of people that recognize that there's a good living to be made in the trades. When there's nobody to do something, you're gonna get paid more for it. So it will be a situation where in a crisis, there's always opportunity for somebody. A lot of the perception of the trades are, you look at the financial numbers for various people, and one guy makes more money on paper, and that's what's reported. Various tradespeauple actually make more money than they're reporting because they don't have the same expense as perhaps other people. Auto mechanics typically don't have car payments. We typically buy cars pretty cheap, like this one here. That's broken, and I can fix it, put it back together for maybe a quarter of what it's really actually worth. Because once it's broken, it has no value, and because I can put it back together and drive it, I don't have a $400 a month car payment, and I don't have the full coverage insurance that goes with that.
I don't know why we're losing girls in high school. I wish I did, because we could work on solving it, but I don't know how to get past that. I do think there's a stigma. I think girls think, oh, that's a boy's job, it's not for me. For some reason they get that in their head. And so I don't know, I try to work with girls whenever I can and get out there in the community and show them that girls can do this job. It's a lot of fun. So on a positive note, I'm seeing a lot more girls coming into my classes, so that's awesome.
I don't want to be all pro-girl and say that we're being discriminated against in this industry, because I feel like a lot of those hurdles have already been crossed, and so I don't want to take away from the women who have crossed those hurdles for us. But I just feel like because it doesn't occur to us that women could actually be very, very good in the skilled trades, that we just don't focus that way. And women also have a tendency to be better welders because we're more meticulous and detailed. And so you will find that a lot of the products that women produce may come out a little bit more meticulous with less errors. I don't want to take away from the men because they're good at what they do, but I just feel like we don't focus enough on the women and the young girls coming into the skilled trades.
Modern kids are very smart. I hear everybody knows they need a side hustle. That's a term I've heard. Mechanics and all tradespeople have always had side hustles. And a lot of them are, I'll trade a mechanical repair on a buddy's car and he'll help me fix my house. Those are all income I made, but there's no numbers traded, there's no cash that traded hands, so therefore, these are benefits you get from the trade.
Like I said, you may have somebody who's an electrician, but that electrician may be programming a robot arm, and those robot arms they're relevant now and they're also our future. Or they're going to be the electrician that programs the cars that drive themselves, you know? And so if you can be on that project, because that is so futuristic, you kind of end up being a rock star. And I think that's going to be very appealing to this young generation that we're born with computers in our hands.
People that are in the apprentice field refer to it as the other four-year degree. And I want you to think about it this way. You go to college and for 4 years, you have money coming out to pay your tuition, room and board, books. You can get an apprenticeship, and for 4 years, you're on the job earning money. So at the end of 4 years, when you finish that apprenticeship, you've earned money for 4 years. At the end of a college degree, you've spent money for 4 years, and now you need to get a job where you can recoup it. So who's ahead? The person that's earned money for 4 years, or the person that's spent money for 4 years?
I went off of where we were starting. What'd you ask me in the first place?
Yeah. And that kind of the idea for that started just a guy in it who was the mechanic, he's my mechanic. And that was conversations I was having with him when I was bringing my car in to get it fixed, and partly asking why did it seem a long time to be able to get my car in? And, he didn't have loaners, so you find out right away when there's a car problem and they can't fix it in 2 days, wow, this is a huge disruption in my life. And he seemed really bright about the subject and had a lot of ideas, and I was just gonna make a documentary with him, but then I thought, well, that's just one person, so let's see if we have a skilled trades department at Delta, so I started talking to them, and that's how it came here.
It's very good, yeah.
Oh, good. Partly because I'm not in it that much.
No.
Did anybody see the cameo? Did anybody see me in there?
No, I've seen you pushing wires around.
Yeah, I was working on the furnace.
But I thought you were showing at the high schools,
Yeah, that actually that film had some legs, it got accepted and won a few awards, but also I got invited to Alpena Community College, and they had like a community symposium on the skilled trades, and they showed my film, and then they had like 6 or 7 people on the stage that they were asking questions about the trades and whatnot. Quite a few young people, but you know, I agree with what the mechanics is, that we're not, young people are not in an environment when they're little that they've learned much about fixing things or playing with their hands. Everybody, I mean, it's cynical to say, but everybody seemingly wants to be like a YouTube influencer. They just want to do stuff on their phones, and I don't know, when I look back at my education and opportunities I had, probably one of the best environments I was in. I finished my bachelor's degree in English, but I didn't have a teaching certificate, so I couldn't teach high school or middle school. And I was still in town here, and I ended up working a maintenance job at Vermont Inn. And I would say I made almost as much money from that experience as I did from my degree, because of so much that I can do around my house myself.
Yeah.
Because my supervisor, he was really big on, you know, like, as long as you're willing to unplug something and take it apart, you can almost always see the problem. He said most Americans don't. They're afraid to unplug it, they're afraid that they just throw it away and buy a new one. His theory was, if you don't know how to fix a house, you shouldn't own one. Which is a little extreme, but yeah, I have friends who, it shocks me, but they call strangers into their house to fix, where I'm just like, you can't fix that? Like, that's not even hard, you know? But a lot of people don't get that training. So, and then it sounds like, well, Lucas, who was in a lot of the films, he watched this and he was laughing. He said, yeah, in high school I took a welding class, but he said we never welded because there was no budget for metal. So we played poker. And the teacher just said, like, I'll talk with you about welding, but after that, I've got nothing to do with you because we don't have any metal or any of the supplies we need to practice welding. And so they literally played poker in the back of the room, and the teacher didn't even care. She's like, what am I supposed to do? We spent 3 weeks, we talked about welding, but it's kind of like taking a swimming class and talking about swimming. It's like, when are we going to get in the pool? Well, there isn't a pool, so good luck. Most of you are going to drown.
It's almost like you went to college for a year and then you got out, but he used to take things apart when he was a kid, electrical things and everything, and that's how he got into, you know, the radio and all that stuff, electrical stuff, and with AT&T and mobility and all that, and he learned it on his own. You know, and with good many years doing it.
I think my nephew, my brother's son, a great life he's made for himself, right? Going into the lineman trade, and was that like a year and a half long program up in Northern?
Yeah, I think it was a year and then 3 years apprenticeship to be a journeyman. He was making over $100,000 a year every year as an apprentice.
Like that guy talked about, the other 4-year degree, except you're making money.
And no student loan.
No student, yeah, and no student loan.
Yeah, my niece is in project for
Yeah, just by the mic because you were off camera when you were talking.
Oh, is this better?
Yes.
Well, I remember my son, who you saw in 11/11, and he's doing all right for himself now, but when he was kind of lost, I knew that he liked driving. And I mentioned to him, I said, like, you should go, like, back and, like, they're looking for long-haul truckers, you love driving, like, you could probably in a short amount of time, and as I'm saying this to him, his eyes are filling with tears. And I was like, what is wrong? And he's like, well, you think I'm stupid. And it's like, that's not what I think, but that's the perception, is like, you would ask me to do that kind of work. You must not think I'm cut out for college. And I don't think college is for everybody. Even though I teach in a college, I know there are bullshit degrees out there that are gonna land you with a lot of debt and not much income based on what you learn.
High school wasn't for everybody.
But I think everything they're saying about perception is right. It's just really just become, the assumption is everybody will go to college, everybody will go get a 4-year degree, and there's not even enough work for everybody if that's what they do. And they're certainly not gonna, I remember meeting with my TIA CREF person at Delta, and it's just funny where people land. We were talking, and I was talking, and she was like, what do you do? And I was mentioning how I just came from my screenwriting class. And she was my advisor for what I should do with my money. And she said, oh, that's what my degree is in. I have a 4-year degree in film. But she, maybe having a 4-year degree helped her land a job with this financial company, but she's so far removed from what she trained to do. And she said, like, oh, I haven't made anything in film in like 30 years. But that was her degree. And I think a lot of people end up with these degrees that they don't.
It's just the thing you do.
Well,
Everyone think, okay, go to, they're just like, I mean, you had your film Cellar Dwellers.
Right.
And that was, it's funny, he teaches at the university, but he has this film, and then Cellar Dwellers was about a guy that ended up graduating, but he couldn't.
He had a degree in Canadian studies. So he felt the school owed him because they sold him a bullshit degree, so he moved into the basement of one of the buildings and chained himself to a radiator. The school was trying to get rid of him.
He sneaks off into the swimming pool and he's swimming away. And, he's like, I'm living here. But, yeah, it's probably you could get it on YouTube.
I think there are cases where professors, and I am one, I don't think I'm devious, but I think there are professors who are not truthful with their students about what the opportunities are out there. Even I think of, so many schools have them, and I think they do good at the teaching level, but it's like with MFA, it's like Masters in Fine Arts, and there's only so many teaching positions that are full-time where you can really live off.
Be honest with people.
Nobody's going to have that conversation because then nobody would take their classes. Nobody's going to tell people who just applied to grad school, by the way, the chances of you living off your writing or being a teacher is about 3%. You'll get some adjunct jobs and you're going to be loaded with student debt, and you probably, how many people want to be writers? I had to live off of my writing. If I had to live off of my writing, I'd be in a homeless shelter right now.
I'm doing it right now, I'm brag. On the job.
There's still opportunities, but I just think, I do think, especially with the high schools not having shop class, not having those available, or you take a welding class and you never weld. I think there are kids who want to work with their hands and they're discouraged. They got parents, no, you got to go to a 4-year degree.
Every guy I went to high school with took machine shop and tool and die, and all of them got on like college and had good careers and lives and made a great living, and it's just not available anymore.
And you got to watch the documentary because Alicia said you should show the documentary at the end. So if you enjoyed the documentary,
I loved it, everything. I didn't even know you did these movies. I didn't know you made movies.
if 20 years ago you would say, oh, in 20 years you're going to show these movies that you made at Peter White House, I don't do that. No, I'm not. But it's just, I had students in my fiction writing classes who, when I went around the room on the first day and asked them why they were there, they said they wanted to write movies, but Delta didn't offer anything like that. So they took fiction because at least they could learn about story. So I went back and took a screenwriting class and I brought that back to Delta, and out of that, that's just kind of where it grew. And like you said, we lost our technical guy, and that's when I went back for a sabbatical to learn camera operation. Glad you enjoyed it.
We have time for about one more question, because the library closes at 8:30 and those doors lock and people are stuck in here for the entire night. We don't want to do that.
Okay.
I loved it, Jeff. It was awesome.
Thank you. Love the humor stuff. That was
super. I have a 38-year-old child living in my basement. And how do you burn down a basement?
I don't think you can do that.
Get him to move into the garage. Get him into the skilled trade.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for coming.